Okay. Man, I'm a little confused. So I think they changed the YouTube workflow, but I'm not positive. It could be something that I did. But I used to click go live and then there'd be an option to reuse settings. And now it just makes the stream immediately. I want to find out if something actually did change. Hey, medic. And yeah, hi again, everybody. Sorry about the confusion here. How do I find this out? YouTube live. I don't know. Just look at news. That's not helpful. Go live, reuse settings. There's nothing here. I just did this. Hey Phil, I just did this on Friday without using this tool that I have. Did you just release a game on Steam? Yeah, I did. And now we're working on the new one. Well, I think this is probably very recent. I mean, I guess I could search Reddit for this, but yeah, I don't see anything. I mean, maybe it's not that recent. Huh. I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if they changed things. Let me take a look off screen for a sec. Yeah, weird. I click go live and it doesn't. Huh, interesting. Okay, so I don't think I can show you this flow, but I can show you this. I used to click create and then go live. It would bring me to a page where I'd have to click new stream and then click reuse settings and then type in all my details and click next, 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 finish. Now when I click go live, it just makes the stream and I can edit the settings there. I wonder if they updated the API or something recently. Hey, Presley, how you reformulate? And nice, happy 3 streams. I got to figure this out because I just wrote this tool. Well, I vibe coded it, but still, I just got a tool that I'd like to actually use. YouTube data API v3 documentation. When did this last change? Where's live streams? I don't see it, but I guess it's probably under video somewhere. Insert. Live streaming details. Do they talk about this anywhere? They don't. Contains meta details about this. Yeah. Actual start time, end time, scheduled start, scheduled end, concurrent viewers. Hmm. Yeah, I posted in Discord about it. It's this tool. It's just a way for me to set titles and descriptions and then just click update, update, and I'm done. But I think they changed the API very recently. It's hard for me to know for sure because I know on Friday I did this the old way and everything worked fine. Then I tried using this tool. It is possible that I broke something by calling an API in a certain way. But I should be on YouTube right now. I don't want to spend a lot of time looking into this. I guess I'll just start streams the old way, but it's a little annoying. Yeah, anyway, this link seems to just take me to my current stream. Yeah. And is that all that link should do? Yeah. Well, wild. All right, let's not worry about that for right now. So stream titler can't properly start my videos on YouTube. I had a distinctly different flow on Friday, but now clicking go live brings me to a single page where it's already made the stream for me and I can just fill in the details. It used to ask me if I want to reuse settings from any prior stream. I wonder how you get back to that now. Also, why can't I find any news about this or something? Like YouTube, go live, reuse settings. There should be something there, even from a while ago. Yeah, here. You can easily create a new stream using the same settings as a previous one. The new stream will copy the previous stream's metadata settings and stream key. You have a chance to change it after it's created. Select your stream and click reuse settings. Yeah, they changed this. This was not how this used to work. If I click live, what, there's a reuse settings button now? I don't even see that. What are they talking about? Select a stream and click reuse settings. Where is that? Manage live stream? What else could that possibly mean? Select. Is it in here? I don't know what they're talking about. Hey, Flair. That's strange, right? Was this just modified yesterday? I'd love to see if there's a... Oh, you know what we could do? We could look at the Wayback Machine for this. And see what it looked like on Friday, for example, which was the 27th. They have an archive for the 26th. Let's just look at that one. 302. Oh, that's not good. So none of these snapshots actually work. Oh, God. Yeah, that's too bad. I guess you can test it manually again now since you just started anyway. But at least what I'm trying to find doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. The game's name has been revealed. Man, I want to see an archive of this page though, but none of them have snapshots that work. Oh, wait. This one looked like it was going to work. Where's the content? Ah, there it is. Select your stream, click reuse settings, huh? So this hasn't changed apparently. I think the select your stream thing we used to be in create and then go live. And it's just not there anymore. Yeah, I wonder if I've been opted into something else. Would you ever track explicit hours worked on this game from start to finish? I think lots of people tend to like number-driven analysis. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. It's easy to track how long I'm streaming for, and it's pretty easy to estimate how much I'm spending time taking breaks or something. But like, I don't want to, let's say after the stream, I'm like, you know what, I'll do a half hour of work and it turns into 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I'm like, wait, when did I start? I don't want to have to track that stuff. It's going to make it very tedious for me. Because work doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing something at this computer, right? I might grab my laptop, go to a friend's place and be like, you know what, let me design some more characters or something like that. And I'd have to track that. Hey, WebDev. If it were, you know, quote unquote free, I think I'd probably track it. But yeah, it's too much of a change to my workflow. Plus the other thing too, you know, imagine I'm sitting here, I'm doing something on my computer and then somebody calls me and I'm like, oh man, an important phone call. And I forget to stop my timer or something. What do they include? How much content should I have? Probably 10 minutes of gameplay. That's my guess. What about just tracking streaming hours? That's already done. Yeah, because I already have it in the VODs. All right. Well, anyway, I spent a lot of time just being confused and annoyed by YouTube. I'm like 90% sure that something changed because, like I said, I used to click this and it would bring me to a different page. And now it just brings me to my live stream. Maybe from here you can do something. Let me take a look. No, I don't see it. All right, I'm done. I'm done looking into this. This is a waste of time. All right, let's get back to the design because I had a bunch of questions that I had not answered. So, did I make the pixel art myself? No. I'm not an artist. I had a bunch of questions about this like architect stuff to get everyone kind of on the same page. And I'll wait for the ad to end. It's ending in 9 seconds, so I'll explain then. But that way, anyone who missed the morning stream, I can catch them all up on. So just wait another few seconds and ad is done. Okay. So for anyone who is just tuning in or who is watching this as a VOD and wants to know roughly what's going on here. So the idea for this game, it's called Stuck in a Broken Tutorial. And it starts out and you're in this platformer game, and for all you're aware of as a player, you think that that's the game, that this is a platformer now. But you're jumping and it's trying to teach you how to play, and at one point it tries to get you to jump over a chasm, but you cannot make the jump and you fall. But instead of hitting the ground, you fly through the ground all the way down into this like secret world, and you encounter the architect. And the architect has created this game that you were in, but you don't know that at the time. And upon seeing you, he's very surprised and teleports you to another world. And now you're in a farming simulator or something like that. And you start exploring the game and kind of figuring out how to get out of these broken tutorials. So that's the overview of it. We've planned a lot this morning in terms of like, what is the structure of the game a little bit, and how does some of the characters work, and how does the world work. And I haven't totally figured out what the architect's role is in the game. One of the ideas that I had was that they're a game developer and they didn't do a very good job. And you eventually teach them that like, well, their games are still fun, even though they didn't do a good job. But this doesn't really mesh well with the other thing I wanted, which is for your character to sort of become an architect and then fix those games. So I got to kind of pick one, I guess. So that's what we're going to plan now. We haven't gotten back to the whole inventory stuff. Do we have an inventory? Meta inventory. Do we allow backtracking? Hey, Resfriato. Hey, Matt. So storylines. How can your storyline work without undermining the architects? The architects is okay with imperfections, but then you're fixing their games and it's allowing people to enjoy them. This implies that you know better than the architect, or that their games need to be fixed. So here are some options. We could turn the architect into a villain with no real redemption. They make bad games and they just refuse to learn or get with the times. This would likely mean that you're not befriending them. Another is that the architect could be fine with imperfection before learning that it's turning their players into zombies. Then you could help them improve as a game designer. And you break out, you just retain it. It could be, yeah. Also, hi, Goose. And hey, dig it. We could change your story about fixing all of the games, but then you kind of lose a purpose. Just here dropping doggo pic. Oh, how nice. That's not your dog, right? Like, Gus is, I know your dog, but I thought you only had Gus. I think it boosted the Twitch stream viewer count. Seems way higher this early. Twice as much on previous stream. Yeah, I think also starting something new makes it more easily followable for people. Like day 137 of anyone's game dev journey is going to be just another drop in the bucket. Dog sitting here since she got abandoned. She's adopted now. Adopted by you? Because if so, that's nice. And it's nice that they get along. So you plan about 2 years for development of this game? Just wondering what factors made you decide. I haven't like fully decided. I'm just saying this isn't going to be like a game jam type of game. I'm going to properly design it and prototype it. And if it ends up being fun, then we'll pursue it. And it'll probably take a while. Not me. Okay, got you. Yeah. Okay. So turn the architect into a villain with no real redemption. They make bad games and they just refuse to learn or get with the times. This means you're not befriending them. What would this do? I kind of want to explore each of these a little bit. So villain arc or villain option. If you meet the architect, like, yeah, your motivation probably wouldn't. I don't think I like this. Be to have fun. Your breaking out of games as a like a survival mechanism. And then meeting the architect has no real purpose unless you're trying to defeat them or stop them from making bad games. I mean, that could work. Games not slice of life story driven. Yeah, I'm still torn about kind of all of this stuff. I guess I need to think of what do I like and then make everything fit from there instead of trying to figure out. Yeah, I think I should go with what I like. Principle to a fall, but with redemption twist. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, let me think about this. What I really liked was the idea that agents become NPCs through boredom of the games they're playing. Like, I think this has a real world impact too. This is part of the reason why I like this. Like, if you just are playing a game and you're not having fun anymore, like, what are you doing playing that game? Yeah. In fact, I like explicitly want to call this out because I think this is one of the coolest themes. Mm, I think I have it in terms somewhere. Yeah, they lose their free will. This is sort of a reflection on actual gamers just kind of becoming zombies playing the same game over and over. Looking at you, League of Legends, even though they're not having fun. Yeah. Oh man, it's crazy to think that it is almost exactly 2 years from now. I wonder how many games are going to try to launch on February 29th just to stand out. And I wonder if that breaks any like online tools, anniversary calendars, or something like that. It's a definition of RuneScape. It's a definition of a lot of games. Yeah. Hey, Tate. Yeah. I think this is critical to leave in the game. So your journey would be first that you want to break out of this world. Or, well, no, your journey would be first that you coincidentally break out of this world and then intentionally try to get back to the architect to learn more. Then realize that games are like that the architect's games are rotting people's brains. At which point you try to fix it. You know what it could be? It could be that like the architect is friendly and likes that you're enjoying their games and doesn't, I kind of wrote this up here maybe. They don't realize their impact. Yeah. Yeah, but doesn't realize the impact is much more, I don't know, pernicious than what they'd intended. At this point, they could defy you, or they could want to learn. Well, you'd be teaching them, I guess, right? Yeah. If we go fast enough, we can release that. Yeah, I'm not going to try to rush or anything. I still think game dev is mostly about the journey for me. I don't know. I can't exactly get this to fit. Like let me think if this were real, what would happen? If this were real, how would it play out? Like, I'm making games because I want to make them. I recognize that they're bad. Then people play it and like literally go crazy. I would probably feel terrible and want to improve. But in this game, the character has their head in the sand. So they don't realize how bad it's gotten. Players are gonna get really confused. I know. It's gonna be hard to tell what's a bug and what's not a bug in this game. I just claim this is the only bug-free game out there. No bugs. Everything you encounter is intentional. If you get stuck in a broken tutorial, then that was the point of the game. It'd be funny to have each new game be more and more deranged as you see the different attempts to make a game, but he sucks. I think they're all going to be like crazy in a funny way. Like imagine a space shooter, but there are so many bullets that I don't know. There's like no way to dodge them. I'm not actually trying to come up with a good idea here, but just some like crazy thing happening. Or imagine a space shooter where you can just go out of bounds of the map, and then none of the bullets can actually reach you. Probably don't realize how bad it is. So then, when confronted with this, I could either be, mad, resistant to change, open to change, but unable to change. I don't know. Yeah. Causing great harm in this case. Yeah. As in, like, again, to just kind of spell this out, the idea was agents, like all game characters start as agents, which is healthy. And then they get bored of broken games and become NPCs, which is unhealthy. And the architect is making broken games. So they're causing this. So that's this just spelled out very quickly here. So basically, like, they're making games. They're not doing it to hurt people, but it's kind of hurting people, at least through one lens of looking at this. Could they be stuck? Also be stuck in where even higher ups make decisions, like in a big game studio? They desperately would want to improve it, but they're not allowed to. Give them a bit of redemption at the end. I think their redemption can happen sooner. Like, I kind of want to just be a personal arc for them of realizing that, hey, my games are actually fun, but not for the reason I meant for them to be. And that's okay with me. And that's a nice story. And if that's all we stopped at, it would be fine. How did the game launch go? Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better now. I think it went well. I'm looking at it more positively and everything. Yeah, so here's one route. If we only focused on the architect, then the game could play out like this. They are not confident in their abilities, and truthfully, they make bad games. You have fun with the bad games anyway because you're breaking out of them. The architect realizes that you're having fun, and even though it wasn't via the intended way of having fun, they're now happy with themselves and gain confidence. So this is like a nice little small touching story that if we just stopped it there, that'd be fine. There are no like inconsistencies. The problem is that we go from here, from there, the player fixes their bad games. This is the problem, because if they were like, well, I was okay with imperfections, and then you just like fixed them all anyway, then you're not okay with imperfections. And that's where I can't reconcile this. I'm not sure how I want to pursue that route. Maybe you just make new games. No, the two things just don't fit. It can't be that the architect is like, yeah, I'm fine making bad games if they're turning people into zombies still. Yeah, I think that's the problem. That bad games are turning people into zombies, then the architect can't just be fine with that without being a villain. Because, like, yeah, imagine if you made some, I don't know, imagine if you made Factorio and you found out, oh man, people are getting addicted to this game and they're like spending all their money either foregoing real life obligations. You'd be like, uh oh, this thing that I put out there with the intent to just entertain people is going south. So at some point, you need to confront that. I mean, I'm not actually talking about Factorio this way. It's just a game. I think people have the ability to make their own decisions. But if they were turning into literal zombies, and you were like, wow, they're eating each other's brains, you'd probably say, I got to put a stop to this. So the architect didn't do that, then they would be a villain. So yeah, we either have, I mean, it's still the same kind of routes that I was talking about earlier, but options like don't, yeah, it's the same stuff I talked about earlier. It's this. The architect could become a villain. They could grow. In fact, maybe you're not really an architect. Maybe you don't fix their games. Maybe you teach them how to fix their game. Yeah, that could potentially work. So I don't like this. I just don't like the villain route. I think this is what I'm leaning toward. And I mean, maybe you're helping them grow. It's kind of options 2 and 3. I do like the idea of you helping the architect grow so that they can fix this stuff. Maybe that thing about you being an architect is like technically correct, but has no real bearing on the games. I like that idea. Yeah, I like that idea. The puzzle adventure? Yeah. And thanks, Mr. D-Boy. Maybe they want you to help him make his games better. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Hey, Bogdy, no more Skeleseller? Yeah, no more Skeleseller at least. I've got 2 things for you. That and that. It's quite a lot to go through. So, but that's for later if you want to. Yeah, okay. So I think I like this idea. So let me just write this stuff out. So basically, like, the architect makes bad games. You still find them fun anyway. The architect is heartened by this. You then discover that these bad games are having deleterious effects on people. And then you bring this information to the architect. He is aghast. You try, your like new mission is to help him improve. And then at the end of the game, he fixes the broken game so that NPCs can regain their humanity, essentially. What if the sidekick was actually sabotaging the architect's games? Okay, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, we should talk about that for a bit. What were those commands? Oh, sorry. Let me paste them into here's the wrap-up document, and here is the YouTube video. Hopefully those work. Let me know if they don't. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. The end of the game, you find out that they were purposely enslaving people. No. I don't want the architect to be evil. Like, we can go that direction. That's definitely possible. It would work. We could make a game about that. But I'd rather make it more about friendship and growth And as a result, I mean, this is kind of interesting because I was thinking about it from the point of view of the architect. So yeah, I do want to talk about this still. Yeah, this is the new game. Yeah, just bad. Okay, so they would only appear to be stuck in the game, but they yeah, let's plan this stuff a bit. So when you first meet them, they're trying to trick you into thinking they're stuck, but they're the one who made the game bad in the first place. They were surprised to find another agent. Actually, I had a dialogue set here. Where is this? Yeah, here. So at one point, you start talking to the agent, and he gets dialogue choices. Like, you know, in a video game where it says something like, you know, which path do you want to take? And you see a little arrow, and there's like right and then left, and you can just pick which one. I wanted you to ask a question to the sidekick. So you'd say something like, "Hey, why are you here? Or like, how did you get here?" And what you'd see is answer honestly and answer deceptively. And you'd actually see him move the arrow down to answer deceptively, and then say something like, "I was born here," or something like that. And now you know, as a player of the game, you know, like, that can't be true. But you don't know what's going on or why he's answering that way. But it also shows that he has his own free will to be able to like choose a dialogue option and then respond. So I think it's a nice way to manifest this. And I have a whole bunch of things here, like, yeah. So I mean, that could potentially work. What is their motivation though? Maybe they what would be their motivation? Maybe they have amnesia and you help them unlock their lost memories. You know what actually I think could potentially work in terms of this? Let me write this down. I think like lack of passion. I almost want that to be, maybe they used to love making games but lost a passion for it. I kind of like this idea. And that's what's leading to bad game. Yeah. I like really like this idea. There's some stuff I come up with and I'm like, that's got to be in the game. Like, that resonates a lot. Because again, if we're trying to make this a reflection of what's going on in the real world, I think there are a lot of game devs out there who want to just make like the next big thing without really caring about making the next new thing. And that it would lead to, I guess, not really as negative effects in real life, but not as much fun being had. I think this is super cool. Maybe the sidekick wants to be an architect. Yeah, I still need to think of this. Oh, you're saying that's their motivation? Maybe they want to be an architect. I think we need to figure out then why do they need to sabotage another person's game to be an architect? Maybe they were simply trying to help and it wasn't working out. But if they're let me think about this. If they're sabotaging the architect, then they're essentially kind of a villain, right? So if your job, well, actually, okay, hang on. This is the new thing that came to light here, that the architect had to have been good at one point at making games and is no longer good at it. And it's because of the lack of passion, which means that this probably can't fit with that. Yeah. I don't think this can fit with the like lore reason of the architect lacking passion, since sabotage would imply that their games would be good if not for the saboteur. Yeah. I think a lot of reason he could act deceptively, like having regret, shame, etc. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But the sabotaging is not a lot of reasons behind that. Well, I guess it could be regret or shame or something, but that's actually committing a bad action as opposed to just obscuring your backstory, maybe. Yeah, someone else mentioned the digital circus too. I hadn't even heard of it until today. Yeah. Next new thing is a definite viewpoint. The team I joined has. We are making an open world RPG, going a totally different route than any of the others before it. Okay. Can you share how? Didn't find a way out. This is the only way to get out. I think there can be some kind of minor lore reasons for why the architect is still making games despite not liking it. I don't probably think it's super important. When they take away the architect incompetency joke? Which one? What are you talking about? Any jokes being disrupted by the story that I'm planning is totally fine. We can come up with new jokes. Coming up with a new story is way harder than coming up with new jokes. Yeah, take a look at the today command there, Bogdi. Yeah. Hey, Devil Dog and Jigenzo. What art style? I think I have, maybe I don't have this written here. Yeah, I have it as 2D. Yes, it will likely have pixel art graphics from a variety of asset packs. Yeah. Okay, so let me think about this. Architect makes bad games. You still find them fun anyway. Architects are hardened by this. You then discover that these bad games are having deleterious effects on people. You bring this information to the architect. He's aghast. Your new mission is to help him improve. So I think the big question now is, how do you help him improve? At the end of the game, he fixes the broken game. So they become kind of the hero of the story almost, and you're helping them. Interesting. No AI art? I mean, probably not AI art. You reckon you lose Godot again? Yeah. I'm trying to direct as many people as possible to the FAQ because these questions are being asked quite a lot. But please, if you're new here or if you're just dropping in for today, please do look at the FAQ. There's only like 6 questions there, and I'm seeing the same like few getting repeated in chat. So, all right. So yeah, how do you help improve? We gotta tackle this question. So, and also, like, what does it mean once you hit this point in the game? How does it change the gameplay? So, mechanically, something we could do is allow you to vary the structure of each game somehow. Breath of the Wild. Whoops. Breath of the Wild did this with the Divine Beasts, where you had controls that you could use from any room to change the angle of something, or I don't remember how the other things worked. Yeah, I only remember the elephant one. You could change the angle of the trunk. So yeah, perhaps you have controls like, no, I don't know. Yeah, nothing's really coming to mind there. Super cool if there was a 3D game inside the 2D game. Yeah, I think we could do that for a sub game in here. Although I do wonder how hard it would be to switch between like game styles or art styles or full screen versus not full screen. You planning your next vacation? I'm in the process of planning it. I have a rough outline for when it's going to be. Probably be end of April or early May, I think. Hope you take your own advice. Yeah. I mean, that's a plan. Take my advice for that. But the architect is one of those game designers who are almost religious about even the most minor detail, as if they're stuck in the rules of the perfect game they're chasing, but it's not attainable. I like the lost passion route. So I think when it comes to any of this stuff, like you have a story and you could ask yourself, like, is person X a villain or a hero? The answers are villain, right? Hero, neither, a little both. And that's about it, right? Because we're just talking about something narrow here. Any of these routes could probably work for almost any story or any game. And at some point, it's just a matter of like, it really resonates with me that they're like neither. They're like outside the bounds of beingness, and they're just inadvertently affecting people. And then from there, you decide, okay, well, from this now, decisions B and C fall into place. And now we have a question about system D or a character or something. So yeah, the idea that there was an architect and they're making bad games now just because they have done so many of them and they've lost their passion, I think is a story that will resonate with people, because you kind of see this in real life with game studios. Completely abandoning that and going essentially saying the player may not progress even though they think they should, and that they progress even without truly playing the game. Okay, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I'd have to see it play out. Yeah. I didn't think the game would sell 24,000 copies on launch, just to be clear. That was, I don't think I ever said that. I know I quoted the 24K. The 24K was roughly the minimum wage mark, is what or not minimum wage, sorry. That was 12K with the new sales, was minimum wage. So I said that roughly 2x that would be the like monetary success mark. But I wasn't saying that it would make that many at launch. Oh, okay. It was a joke. Okay. Just making sure. I want to make sure there wasn't any miscommunication there. Helps a lot with understanding your story choice. Yeah. And by the way, a lot of times, where I put this star, like if it's here or here, is probably some super subjective thing or what resonates with me in particular. So yeah, this is one of the questions we need to answer next. Can't figure out how to give people double jump to get past the first tutorial. We just slap a plank down. Yeah, so I got to plan this a little bit more. I don't know if you heard me talk about this earlier, but in the very first game, you're going to have these platforms that are too far apart. And I drew these kind of close together. But anyway, imagine you can only jump to like here. And what most people would say as a fix is like, well, just extend the platform or something, right? So now you can actually make this jump. But I wanted there to be like a bunch of goofy solutions. So there'd be a box of boots here, and everyone who walks by would equip one of these sets of boots, and now they can jump like super high. So there'd be a bunch of like thinking abstractly to solve a problem so that they're funny solutions rather than good solutions. But that's at the end of the game. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, you're going through this story, this stuff all makes sense. And now you're trying to help him improve. I mean, maybe it's like, maybe from a story perspective, it's to show other players having fun. Maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe it's not fixing the games. Like, you find a game within the game that the NPCs enjoy. Very relevant to this idea? No, I haven't. Have you considered that they're actually just learning the designing? So he would learn on how you act in the game and he would improve. I hadn't thought of that, but I think if it's not an action you take in the game, like just playing the games is teaching him, then I guess it turns into the confidence was in me all along, and that could work. I'm not sure it's the most compelling thing. But yeah, it could be that the architect is reinvigorated by having by just this knowledge that he was putting harm into the world. Oh, then the story kind of just, that would sort of be it for the plot at that point. If it's not outright going to end the game, then we probably need for there to be some new conflict for you to overcome. I'm so ready to disappoint you with how dumb I am at playtesting. It'll be very interesting to watch people playtest this game. In fact, when we do the playtest, maybe I should ask most people to record themselves so that I can see how you're experiencing it. Maybe the architect thought he was a very good developer. All the games broke, made him very sad. Tried so hard, got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter. And then we play Linkin Park. I guess that how do you help him improve doesn't have to be the thing that we take from this. Like, it could be just to make new games. It could be to make new games. Like, the architect makes games specifically for you. Not that it impacts the player, although I guess you could have some choice there. Then you figure out why, like, how they're broken. Or maybe you go through his past projects or something. I still don't know what the mechanics would be of this, though. Yeah, I don't know. This isn't super compelling to me for some reason. It could be to just... Could be to help him find passion for game dev again. Oh, maybe you create games for the architect to be in? I don't know what gameplay would look like. You're not going to actually create games within this game. Well, this reminds me of Ratatouille. The scene where he finally bites into the dish and he's brought back to his childhood. Like, if you made a fun enough game for the architect to play, the architect could be like, oh, that's where the joy is again. Maybe you fix his games and then he gets to play them. And that shows him, that helps him find like his appreciation again for these games. Is the name of the character going to be the architect? Yeah, I think so. But again, this is all like, you know, day one planning. So everything's susceptible to change at this point. I sort of like this idea, but I think this is what would end the game. So if this is 90% of the game and then this is the last 10%, that could be okay. What do you think about that? Here for you. Sabotage them to help him. You wouldn't have control. Like, you can visit the world that the architect is in, but it's what we call the real world. It is not a place where you're like meant to survive. You're a game character. And the player is the playtester. The player is literally named player. So like player will be the name of the main character. And I was thinking of naming another character sidekick and then having the architect. Although this character's name is actually something like Mike, and you just call them the architect, and then you find out, oh, they just had a regular name that whole time. I like this idea, but as mentioned, yeah, if we go this route, again, this kind of needs to end the whole game. Which would mean that all of this stuff. So maybe here's what we end up with here. It's like, what's the rest of the game if the final 10% is this stuff? You fix his games, or like you suggest fixes to his games and get him to play them. He has a moment where he regains his appreciation. Yeah, this would be the end of the game, though. You then see NPCs having fun and slowly coming back to life. This wouldn't exactly work. Yeah. Because the actual stuff that you'd see this play out, you'd go through some of these games. I mean, we could make a short game, I suppose. Do you know the Never Ending Story? No, I haven't seen or read that. You gotta sneak in other people's save files. We were talking about some save file manipulation stuff earlier and how we can't have it as a game mechanic because there are going to be some platforms that just don't even let you do that. But I like the idea. Actually, you know what we could do? We could put an editor in the game that controls. Yeah, actually, this is a pretty good idea. We could have a game that has some kind of exposes its own data, sort of like Baba Is You. Imagine a JSON file with like money : 5555, and you can change it to whatever you want from within the game and see the effects immediately. I'm not sure how interesting that is. Yeah, I'm still a little bit stuck on this. I like this. I think this can take some amount of time. Bad games are having deleterious effects. Let me go back a bit. If we do this, then still all of the final bullet points would take place in a single cutscene, which would mean the game would only be 1 to 2 hours long. I don't think I like that route. Although it did never cross my mind that this would be a very short game. Yeah, I think that's probably too short. Especially because I think there are going to be a lot of interesting ideas here. Hey, Eds. Yeah, welcome in. Finding back your passion. Yeah, I think I'm still just stuck on this bit of, yeah, what do we do after the architect realizes? What else did I have from before here? Should I plan the villain route more? Motivation probably wouldn't be to have fun. You're breaking out a game as a survival mechanism, meaning the architect has no real purpose. Yeah, it still just doesn't resonate with me. Unless there's something I'm missing there. You make your own competing games to stop them? Maybe your goal... Okay, I had thought of something else that could potentially work. Maybe your way to help them improve is to find another architect who is making better games. Or maybe put them in touch with QA or something. Okay, that could potentially work. Like, they're not testing. Well, I mean, you're kind of acting like QA in this game if you're finding ways to break things. So yeah, I guess, yeah, I put them in touch with another architect. Another architect would eventually help them fix things. But why are you going through more levels in that time? What is the point? Yeah, I could come up with some like shoehorned things in here. Maybe it's to rescue other agents. Although if you eventually turn all NPCs into agents, it wouldn't really matter. This is what makes me think there's probably got to be some other conflict. There's another conflict route. I mean, sabotage could be part of it. Like, there's another architect fiddling with their games. Is it because of some kind of programming error and you're there to find it and save his games? I think anything where you discover that there's a problem to fixing it needs to involve some gameplay mechanics. Because story-wise, we could come up with a bunch of reasons, but if they all play out in like 2 minutes of real time, then it's the end of the game. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. You could be upset at first until he realizes you're having fun. Yeah. That's kind of the that's part of this. I didn't write out all of this, but like he lacks confidence and passion. You still find the games fun anyway. Architects hardened by this. Yeah. Yeah, so Horporio, what you're describing is like the architect is a villain. If he's trying to delete you. The whistleblower of a bug type character, which in the end helps you discover or find bugs to squash them. Can one of the architects games be vibe coded? Yeah, I think that could be funny. Yeah. A player has to fix all the mini games. But if the architect created them, wouldn't the architect have created those, like, you know, the MacGuffin pieces? You need to fix the games in a certain order to be able to fix others. It could be, but I don't think the fixing the games part would be interesting from a mechanical perspective. I kind of talked about this earlier, but I probably still have this open actually because I've just been leaving every tab open. Yeah, here. In Minecraft, imagine that your goal is build a path. The way you accomplish it in Minecraft is not just like draw a line from A to B and you're done. It's like, well, you go harvest materials, you craft them into things, you're fighting enemies while you're doing that, then you place the materials, and you know, maybe you make it look nice. So like your goal is not just a click a button and you're done kind of thing. In this game, to fix a game would probably have to involve solving some kind of puzzles, but I don't think it would make a lot of sense for the fix to be coded within a game almost. Like you'd probably just change the game, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so what would another conflict be if we're talking about this stuff? So yeah, what Ultramark said I think is part of this. It could be that there's some like solution box that's split and is now in many different games and you have to go fetch them all. This would give you a reason to go do the games. Yeah, I don't think it's very compelling. Yeah, it could be another actor is involved. Maybe they're trying to sabotage things. Maybe it's a glitch. Maybe it's a personified glitch. Like there's some code pixie thing that is warping the games so that they don't work. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's a rival architect who's like, I guess going back to the jealousy in all caps from Devil Dog, a rival architect who's jealous of this architect's success, even without passion. Like there are so many NPCs, but the Jealous Architects games are empty wastelands that don't have bugs. Wait, no, what? How'd that make sense? They're not empty wastelands. They can't be fun and be empty, or else maybe they're just too hard. Maybe their games are just too hard. Maybe that's hmm, having to convince someone to provide funding. So the way I think about this is, and we can probably keep like retconning everything to work, but like the architect is making games. If it costs money to do so and they're out of it, then how are they still making games? And if it doesn't cost money, why would they need it? And if they do still need it, what message are we sending? Like, good games take a lot of money to make. And that's what I'd be worried about there, is the message, more so than answering the rest of these questions. Because I do want the message to reflect on the real world. And that's where I was talking about, like, passion of making games and making good games, and players becoming kind of zombies, just playing games that they're not having fun with anymore. Like, those are real world messages that people can take from this and, you know, interpret it how they will. But this, if we were like, well, you found him a bag of cash and now he's making awesome games again, and you're like, I guess we need, I don't know. It would still have a real world message. It would just probably be the wrong message, I think. Have you seen Mythic Quest TV show? I saw 1 or 2 episodes. I wasn't a big fan though. So I'm not familiar with who Poppy and Ian are. I assume Ian is the guy played by the Always Sunny in Philadelphia guy. Am I the architect? I mean, probably there's some amount of, you know, injection into this game. I'm not sure. What if there's an evil force that wants to put microtransactions in everything and gambling? Maybe, okay, maybe that's a motivation. Okay, that could potentially work. Maybe the rival architect wants to make games for money, or just for money, I mean. So their games are also passionless, but were always that way. Their games contain microtransactions. Okay, this could be a pretty good direction, I think. I don't want to do I don't want AI to be more than like a joke in this game. I should probably say some themes I kind of want to stay away from, because I think if you look at TV shows which have held up pretty well, usually their humor is kind of generic. Like, imagine if you did a bunch of, I don't know, like Furby jokes or something. I don't know how many people remember Furby, or if this was even a worldwide thing. I should probably search for this off screen, actually. Okay, good. Yes, it is what I think it is. So, yeah, there were these little dolls. I think they talked, and they were just a craze for one time. But now there's no cultural relevance as far as I know. So imagine if we made a game with a bunch of jokes about this. It'd be hilarious for a year or 2 years. Then maybe the 3-year mark, people are like, oh, yeah, I remember those things. And at the 4-year mark, people are like, what is this game about? So I want to be careful. AI is a very hot topic right now. It might still be in the future, but if I make some of the messages about the game be AI related, I don't think it's going to be received very well. And I'd like this to just kind of stand mostly on its own. Anyway, I think I really like this idea. Where did it go? Yeah, here. Maybe the rival architect wants to make games just for money, so their games are passionless, but we're always that way. Games contain microtransactions and other jokey things. Yeah, it takes away timelessness. Yeah, I'm hoping the AI thing, or at least controversy around it, dies down. Although I think this is like a monkey's paw thing, or maybe controversy dies down, but so do jobs or something like that. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this. An ad is about to start. So let me wrap up what I'm reading here. What if he did put in loads of passion, but was the only one enjoying it because he forgot to ask people to playtest his game? I like the real world connotation of striving to make games as a monetary endeavor. Because if it was just lack of playtesters, I think that would be sort of diluted slightly. Like it could just be that the architect wasn't testing their games. Although that's also, I mean, I guess the main architect also wasn't testing their games. They were making fun stuff at least. Nonsensical games wants to make players into zombie. Okay, we'll explore this stuff a little bit more when I get back. But I do think this is a pretty interesting idea. It's a combination of what DevilDog.Games was saying in Pitforian. But yeah, I'll be back in just a little bit. Is it jump time? How far back are we here? Oh man, we're like a minute back. All right, I'll just manually shift scenes. It's jump time. Okay, hello again. We're just going to manually close this. Are they playing 2 games at the same time? What, Trons? Wait, were there 2 games running? Oh, I did not see. Yeah, you probably were playing 2 games at the same time. And Blub won this one. How did that happen? Oh, because of the voice command caught up? I didn't think it would try processing that. Okay, my bad. Yeah, my bad. No, I broke a bunch of things about the stream. Well, I think YouTube might have changed something too, but at least with the voice commands, they're just super delayed. And I don't know what's going on, but you can see, well, now you can see that it's not super delayed. But I think over time it gets worse and worse. It's not super delicious. Like with Skeleton. Yeah. It's just that okay, so the way I kind of look at this is there are certain I'm going to say equivalence classes. Oh, this is kind of a computery term, but things like categories where elements within them are not unique. So if I said like foods, apple, banana would both be in this like equivalence class of foods, and places we could say like Earth and Mars, or planets, I guess, are here. So if we're looking for a planet, we don't need to say like, here are all the planets. We should just cover one of them. And in this case, a lack of playtesting is an equivalence class that's already covered by like the first architect. So if the second architect also has a lack of playtesting, it's going to be like, well, shouldn't there be a different reason there? Because the first architect is producing these broken games in the first place. It's due to lack of passion, but presumably if they cared, they'd like playtest their games and fix them. So this rival one should have a different reason. And in this case, the reason is, yeah, maybe money. But I want to plan this a little bit. So let's see how this would work. So I said there'd be another conflict. Maybe you get teleported into a game that is not made by this architect. Maybe, to think about this. Oh, well, I'll write that down. Maybe you get transported into a game from the rival, but you think it's from the first one. Maybe this even happens early on. And only gets clarified when you talk about microtransactions and how you didn't have any money. So you had to grind things out the hard way. Excuse me. But then sabotage. So that would mean that the first architect is a good game designer, but then they wouldn't have lost their passion, right? So if the first architect is getting sabotaged, then their rival, then that means that they're actually making good games that are being destroyed by someone else. This means that their passion doesn't really matter one way or the other. Yeah. And to return to her father, showing the harm of his games as is. Well, no, I think the architect can realize that their games are not working, but the reason why they're not working, I originally wanted to be due to lack of passion. But if they're getting sabotaged, then that changes that reason. So maybe it's no, maybe their passion is reignited by yeah, maybe it's reignited by seeing that you're having fun. Okay, so maybe first architect's passion is reignited simply by interfacing with a player. So they start looking into their games and realize how broken everything is. That's not how they remember things. Wait a second though. But still, the hmm. Hmm. They're both designing a game while you're trying to escape. One is helping you and one trying to block you. I think that'd be cool to do if we get to that point. I'm not confident in a lot of what I've got written so far because I think there are some kind of muddied points and I'm not making them clearer yet. Can't wait to read all that dialogue that I'll likely just skip. Well, if we have AI voices in the game, maybe it'll speak it to you. I'm so lost right now. Oh no, this is not probably easily followable. I think it's tough. There are a lot of details. I am with each paragraph potentially looking at something different. So yeah, this is just how these design streams usually go. So yeah, rival architect. I guess it can't necessarily be sabotage. Maybe it's not sabotage. Maybe the rival thing isn't related to sabotage. All this came about because of some question mark I wrote. Yeah, how do you help him improve? Wait, he doesn't. This all started with the architect being surprised that the games are harming people and wanting to improve, but then needing a new conflict. I don't know how I feel about this. Hey, Schwartz. Because there was this whole thing about free will and agents and NPCs and stuff, and I like that concept. I think that fits in with what we have already. Maybe I'm pursuing this from the wrong angle. Like I'm picturing that you fall through this first world, you see the architect, he says you're not supposed to be here and just sends you away. Like he doesn't want to meet his players, I guess. And just assumes you're there because yeah. I think that's kind of the big reason why. In fact, I should probably write this here. He sends you to the next game. Since he's sick of having players berate him for unfun games. Yeah, I'll just keep going here. You eventually meet him again. He sends you away again. Upon meeting him the third time, he lets you explain a little bit. Tell him you're having fun. He's surprised by this. You then describe what was fun and that everyone else was kind of dead-eyed. I don't know, like he sends you into a fourth game to report back. This assumes that you know how to break out of it. Hmm. Is it like a concept like the architect from the Matrix? Yeah. Yeah. So in the Matrix, the architect designed the Matrix and it was like the sixth iteration or something. Although the architect was like a program or something, right? In this, the architect is a person and who just lost their passion for making games and is basically like pushing out shovelware. Is the escape supposed to be like a puzzle or more like action based and less thinking? More puzzly, I think. Yeah. You tell me you're having fun. He's surprised by this. Let me think about this more. So you stumble on him. He basically doesn't want anything to do with you. He sends you into another game. It's the same story though. You come back. And maybe he's surprised at how quickly this is happening. in his world, not much time has passed, and he's impressed. He's like still shocked, but now also slightly impressed that you got back so quickly. Yeah, so now he knows there's a problem. He would know there's a problem with his game. And that's where I was saying he'd want to improve them somehow. But I guess now lacking the passion would just mean that once he knows about it, he could potentially just like, flip a switch and fix it. Not with passion necessarily, but fixing the games. But lacking the skill to fix them would mean that he's incapable of fixing them and needs to get better. Funky Monkey, thanks for the 28 months. Howdy. Happy resub day. And happy something else day pretty soon. What if they work for a certain studio and a new boss came around and changed stuff? So the way I'm picturing it is the architect doesn't work for someone. And like I was saying earlier, it could certainly be that they do work for someone. We could make an entire game like that and it could still do well. It's just not the story I have in my mind for that. Especially because the games are broken and like no studio would want to put out broken games. Definitely read up on Neoplatonic and Gnostic cosmology. So those are the source material for the plot of the Matrix. So my goal is to not influence myself by reading what other people have done or playing other games like this. I pretty much just want to spew a bunch of my ideas filtered through what I guess some amount of the chat lens that is happening here. And yeah, just see what we discover. Who's that pixel guy? Hey, Basharo, saying yeah, thanks. Okay, so if it was just a lack of passion that caused the architect to produce bad games, then it's then it means that the architect is just being like lazy or sloppy with mechanics that end up being broken, but could do better almost immediately once they care again. So like getting them to care should probably not be instantaneous, or they should lack the ability to make better games, or maybe both. Those are real religions though. Yeah. Sorry, I just meant I want to be careful about how much I look into anything that might influence this more than just whatever's swirling around in my brain already. And I recognize that we're all a collection of whatever thoughts and experiences we've had. And you can't unforget things. Like subconsciously, a lot of things are there. So I might have read something a long time ago that's putting some of these ideas in my head. There are much more direct influences. Like The Matrix is definitely seeping into this. And I haven't watched it in a while, but like I've seen it enough times where I'm pretty familiar with it. And yeah, I kind of want to see like, what does that stuff lead to? Because another way I could pursue this, and I don't want to do this for ideation, but I could ask an AI like, hey, how would you sort these things out? And if I'm still doing game design 3 weeks from now, like I have not even touched any code, I might start getting desperate and pursue like AI for ideation. But if I can figure out the majority of these things within about, let's say like 2-3 days, the story stuff at least, then I'd be pretty happy with that. If it takes a week or something, that's probably fine. A week and a half, it's pushing it. And that's not to say the entire design would be that way. I think the design is going to be, there's going to be some story stuff, maybe some characters, there's going to be the gameplay stuff, there's going to be the jokes, and then some code design at some point. And this stuff taking like 2 weeks or so, I think it'd be pretty reasonable. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Lack of programming skills or bad at debugging? I mean, just lack of ability to make better games. So if you ask me, Adam, I want you to draw a picture of a mountain goat. I would draw you something that like a first grader would do. And if you're like, well, why didn't you do a better job? I probably couldn't tell you, right? Just lack of practice. But I wouldn't be like, oh, I got the shading wrong, right? I didn't capture the. Well, maybe I could tell you what's wrong. I wouldn't know how to fix it though. Um, so yeah, it's like it doesn't really matter what the reason is. They just lack the ability to make better games. The reasoning is not important there. On my Twitch profile the other day and didn't realize I fat thumbed the clip button a bunch of times. A singular deliberate clip. All right, let me write this down for later. Are you thinking like there's only one solution or the player has freedom? Does freedom, can't the story be you as the developer or the architect and the player improves the game? There'll probably be one solution for a lot of these puzzles. But you being the architect. Wait, maybe I'm misunderstanding the you here. If by you mean like Adam, me specifically, I'm the architect, that's not really what I'm planning for the game. I mean, there might be some like crossover between my personality or my thoughts now and what ends up in the game. But the player should not be the architect. The player should be the player of the game in these broken worlds. Yeah, so I still haven't gotten this. So it could be both a lack of passion and a lack of skill. And like maybe their early games were broken, but in more fun ways, or the worlds were more creative. You know, what's kind of weird is if I go this route and I'm like, well, look, the architect lacked creativity, then the game that the real players, like the people who buy this on Steam would play, would look like just shoddily made games, which would make you think, oh, this is a shoddily made game, and not that we're intentionally trying to do this. I've thought about this before where what if you entered some kind of like public speaking competition? You start out and you've got a bunch of hesitation and you're meandering through your thoughts. And then you say, well, this was all just an act. And you start speaking perfectly. It's like, well, people already judge you in that first minute or two of you injecting imperfections into your speech. So I think the same thing would probably happen here. But I still think this doesn't really add up. Yeah. Maybe I haven't fully answered why the games are broken to begin with. So lack of passion could just be they're not bothering to test their games. This is something that's practically instantaneously fixed upon finding out. Yeah, so lack of skill. The games probably wouldn't be all that fun even if they didn't have bugs. What else? Some kind of like sabotage slash some other actor. The goal would be to wrangle that other actor. They were all AI slap coded. Yeah, I'm gonna write this down in the FAQ because I do want to point to this at least in the future. So like, why not add more AI driven plot points? Like, I want the game to stand on its own for some amount of time. AI is somewhat controversial right now. And I think we could come up with other more timeless reasons for a character's motivation. Why not have the architect like AI slop code their games? Yeah. Maybe the games are pitches, so they're a snapshot of the full game in the hope that they get funding or something. I think part of this, and this is the one thing I am kind of trying to shoehorn, I really like the idea of the architect lacking passion, and that being why their games languish and not anything else. So like I kind of want to make this work. I just can't really figure out how to do that, I suppose. Or the game's even launched or published. Yeah, I mean you're in them. Like the very first game you start out in is that platformer that like the architect produced. Because yeah, the point is that they're broken and not that they're just unfinished. I suppose they could be unfinished. They run out of implementation. Textures start to go to stock placeholder. Yeah, I think some games will be unfinished, but I didn't think that would maybe be the reason. Although I don't know, maybe yeah. Maybe it is just that they didn't finish their games. Finishing would take time. Well, and discipline. Supposedly in a draft folder. Beginner's game. Beginner's guide. I don't think I've heard of that. Botland could be the first game. Interactive storytelling video game. Oh. It's made by the same people who made Stanley Parable. Well. Yeah, interesting. Okay, there might be something here. Maybe I overlooked this earlier. They didn't finish their games due to lack of passion. But then why would they move on to new ones? They move on to new ones if they lacked passion. Maybe they're just searching for something to inspire joy again. Start a project, finish enjoy the initial fun. Yeah. Or maybe it's only the starts of games. Or maybe they realized that they struggled with onboarding players. Okay, that's potentially the moneymaker right there. The game is called Stuck in a Broken Tutorial, after all. I mean, they probably wouldn't start writing tutorials anymore anyway. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah. Might get compared a few times. Yeah, that's fair. I think like I've never played that game, and I think as long as I don't touch it, there's no way of me like kind of taking their ideas. I played maybe 5 minutes of Stanley Parable and I just didn't enjoy the game. With that said, I don't know enough about the rest of Stanley Parable to know if it's anything like this. But Beginner's Guide could be, for all I know. Hey, Smith. Yeah, I like this. Okay, so I think it's pretty good. Now, does everything else fit into place as a result of this is the big question. So, searching for something to inspire joy. They realize they struggle with onboarding players, so that they never finish the game. So, you go through this process that I mentioned earlier. Architect is making bad games, lacks confidence and passion. You find the games fun anyway. Architect is heartened by this. And then we find out that they're having these negative effects on people. You bring this information to the architect. He now wants to improve, but it's not that easy because it would take time for them to get back to these things and like improve the onboarding experience, I guess. So maybe the tutorial could be improved. I think it kind of puts us back in the same spot that there was originally. So, yeah, the architect eventually realizes that his games are worth investing time into if someone can have fun even playing the broken parts. At this point, you would have gone through like only 3 or 4 games. So yeah, what happens next? Could try fixing game mechanics and sending you back to those games. The architect could say to find the most promising game of a small collection of new ones. Architect. I don't know. I gotta spend some more time on this. That's for sure. Can be presented with meta bosses and challenges that represent each negative emotion. It's also pretty interesting. Yeah, I wrote that down. Cronofist suggested like personifying the negative emotions and turning them into boss battles. I think there's some promise to that too. Yeah. The games themselves are okay, but the architect only had the job to make tutorials and all that are broken because the actual game was coded by another programmer. If just the tutorial is bad, then there wouldn't be like this thing about, you know, the platform example that I keep talking about where you have to like jump from here to here. If just the tutorial is bad, the platforms would just be closer to one another. So it's got to be that the game is broken and it's not just the tutorial. I guess you could stretch it and say that the architect like moved the platforms far apart from each other. But then I think the solution is like, well, we just quickly patch those things. This one has scope creeper and all over. Oh yeah, definitely. The idea of a large game and a bunch of sub games already is like a pretty big undertaking, I think. But I think it sounds like an interesting project. Also, remember, this is day one. We're only designing. I'm just talking about like how do we even make this original idea kind of work. And then at some point we need to figure out, okay, how many game worlds are there? What are the mechanics? Where are the jokes that we're putting in? Oh yeah, I think they let you edit it on. Wait, do they let you edit it on desktop? I don't remember. Ergo, vis-a-vis concordantly. Victory laugh referencing the NPCs, agents, now fixed game mechanics. Yeah, yeah. I gotta simmer on stuff for a little while. That's for sure. Do you know the idea in full yet, or you're still figuring it out as you go? Yeah, still figuring it out. The general idea of the game is what's there in the today command. There is a lot more to it than that to understand like what are the motivations of the characters, how do they grow, what do you learn as you're playing, what's your motivation as a player of the game. Well, they all have the same art style. Could be interesting if they're varied. So they're very likely going to be different. As mentioned, I'm probably going to just go here, go to game assets and buy like 20 of these. So one of these is going to be this, let's say. I've never seen this before, but it's like, okay, we're going to come up with a game that then fits this style. Or we'll plop this in next to something else, or I don't know what. This is not a very large asset pack, so that probably won't work actually. But who knows? Something like this would definitely work. This looks pretty big. Yeah, so we could have like a little roguelike dungeon thing where you go through and you collect potions. And yeah, I don't know. We find some way to like subvert expectations here a little bit. Maybe you're recruiting the monsters you're supposed to be fighting. And by the end of it, you have a little monster army. Just like fun ways we can change around expectations a bit. Hey, JD. Yeah, sounds good. Some things I'm saying seem to actually make it clear what direction you want or what direction absolutely not. No bad things. Yeah. Yeah, I think what's tough about brainstorming is you don't know how far away from a solution you are. And I think with group brainstorming, what's tough is like, I know this is kind of weird to say, but at the end of the day, like I'm going to make these decisions. So if I get 100 ideas from chat and I end up using like 3 of them, I just hope I don't make the 97 other suggesting people feel bad. But like, yeah, at some point it's going to be something I want to make and I'm excited about. Okay, so yeah, I've got a lot of things I'm still kind of struggling with here, though. There's this one. Realizes that his games are worth investing time into if someone can have fun playing the broken parts. I mean, if the architect is just fine. But wait a second, though. This is... People aren't really having fun, though. It's just player. It's kind of the whole problem of the game. I mean, we could drop that thing about all the free will and changing agents into NPCs and vice versa. Although I still think every time I get to here, I keep getting stuck. I mean, maybe that's the point. Is to get other people to enjoy the games, not necessarily fix them. The idea of getting those like high jump boots into the first game could be the path we take for this stuff. And that's where backtracking and crossing through different worlds comes in. Yeah, I could see, well, I guess I could see that potentially being the case. So you find the game fun, but you recognize that other people aren't. So then fixing the games becomes a thing that takes time. Make it so that the fix isn't just a light switch. So like for the first game, you need boots, but they're found in the 6th game, let's say. And maybe each game you fix gets you... Well, no, I guess it wouldn't be an end credits thing now. Like you'd see people enjoying that game. The architect would get better and better. Maybe at the end of all of this, you play a like complete game with no real problems to indicate that the architect has gotten better. Hey, David Zev. Yeah. What if the architect is just missing the passion to finish a game? So the games are just a bunch of hastily made side projects, hence the brokenness? Yes, that's like what Cuddlefish was talking about. Or was it? I think it was Cuddlefish. Yeah. And it could be that for sure. That also include fake sugar like Diet Coke or Coke Zero or coffee. It doesn't include fake sugar, although coincidentally I gave up all of these things. I gave up all caffeine, coffee, tea, and carbonated drinks. So a lot of this stuff just doesn't really like cross my mind anymore. But yeah, if you're talking about like things like sucralose and what, erythritol or something like that, like I'm not cutting those out. So it's just whatever I can find in the nutrition packs quickly. Doing a similar style, like 2D top down, or are you going 3D? There might be some 3D like game, just one game maybe. But I think it'd have to be pretty easy for me to tackle. So the game will be almost entirely 2D, I think. Or the fixes are very complicated. I don't think they need to be complicated. Although I guess why can't the architect do these them on their own? architect fix these problems himself? Why do we need the joke solutions? You can just move two platforms closer to one another. And he expands on the broken mechanics to make them even more fun, to make better games. Yeah, so the idea that I was saying earlier, again, imagine you've got like, I don't know, let's just look up Super Mario Bros. And see if we can find something that's kind of close enough. Yeah, let's say this. So here's a picture of, let's say you had to make it from this platform to this platform. So you can't jump that far, so you fall through the entire world. Well, the way this game can be fixed, like the obvious way is just move this platform closer, right? So we just slide the whole thing to the side. But I wanted them all to be like kind of joke solutions. So in Mario, for example, they have those, what are they, like the note blocks? And they're the ones that let you jump super high. So like this is a sort of out of the box solution. Now this is not for Mario, it's not out of the box. So I'm not totally sure. There was some reason why I started talking about this. Oh yeah, so expanding on the broken mechanics. I like the idea. I'm still not sure about the implementation of some of this. I am kind of, whatever the word is, like rat holing on this. Is that a word? Rat hole meaning. Yeah, I think so. Rabbit hole. I feel like, well, okay, rabbit hole to me is like getting lost in something. I'm like stuck in something right now. I'm not actually moving forward. It's not like exploring a whole bunch of different things. I think the rabbit hole analogy is from what, Alice in Wonderland, where it turned out to be a whole new world. I'm not exploring a whole new world. I'm exploring the same two paragraphs over and over. And so how about this? Maybe like collecting my thoughts. There are a lot of ideas that I like, but I can't get them to mesh well with each other just yet. Great way to make a plan. I can use that for my project building. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's helping. Yeah. Are the games finished or unfinished? I mentioned before they could be unfinished, but then they had to be published. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, nothing's really set in stone. A lot of this is just brainstorming and trying to figure out like how do these things fit. So the ideas I like best are the architect making bad games due to lack of passion. This doesn't seem to be fitting. If we really want to make this the case, we could go the route of trying to make money. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. What else? The architect just making bad tutorials. Like presumably a lot of these have an entire game beyond them. Are larger sections of game beyond the tutorials. But most people get stuck in them. The idea that bad games lead to like humans becoming zombies. It's not literal humans, it's not literal zombies, hence the quotes. And ideas I like but that haven't fit yet. Rival architect making games for money but not having players at all. They're jealous of the main architect. What else? Or I probably have a bunch of things over here too. Yeah. The like fixing games being the outro. Funny ways. What other things did I have here? The player becoming an architect. A whole new world, like Little Mermaid. No, that was Toy Story. Get it together. I really liked Aladdin. I don't know why more people don't list it higher than Lion King. What if there is no architect? We just go through tutorials of really bad games that don't even work half the time. Well, there's got to be some story, or else it's not going to feel like a complete experience. Maybe not just money, but being noticed for good game design. I don't think that'll resonate with most players. I think the money-driven endeavors will resonate with practically everyone because you can take any hobby in the world and then you can start doing it for money. And it will change that hobby for you. So I think that is a sort of universally understood thing. But trying to be the best at game design, I mean, I get that you could try to be the best at any hobby and it can also ruin things, but it's not as common a story. Like the average person doesn't usually think I'm going to be the best at this, but the average person might think, oh, what if I made money off of this? But who knows? Maybe I'm just, yeah, maybe I'm simplifying things too much. Lack of skills and therefore issues which led to losing passion. Do you have a list of the reasons for losing passion so you can see which one resonates the best? The reason for losing passion, I have not I haven't fully settled on, but I'm not even sure that the losing passion thing works. I like it as a theme. I also liked this as a theme. In fact, I think these things are probably my favorite. I think the problem with the lack of passion route is that we eventually have to get to the point where the architect realizes this. Well, I guess the other idea that I really liked is that I don't need to keep writing the idea that player helps shows the architect that they're having fun even despite the broken tutorials. Okay. Hold on. What about this? So architect is, yeah, just bad at making tutorials. It kills their desire to make games. Player is the first one to actually enjoy beating the tutorials. This, well, yeah, this reinvigorates the architect to want to build on the games. This could lead to backtracking. Maybe the architect has to spend time preparing them. Maybe time works in reverse from how I planned. It moves faster in the real world than in the game worlds. That way you can... Why does that matter though? Why would you need to be stuck? No, that doesn't make sense. Well, let me just cross all this out. That doesn't make sense because the architect could just keep you in the real world. Maybe you only have so long you can last there. Since you're a game character. Okay, hang on a second. So, hang on. Time moves faster in game worlds. No, we're doing it the opposite way. Time moves faster in the real world, so it's moving slower in the game world. So you'd be able to survive there while the architect has time to make other games for you. Can they just fix the game you're in? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that's another major problems I have. Everything breaks down when you befriend the architect. Like, why do you still need to go through other worlds at that point? And what is the conflict once you realize once they're friendly and can help you and vice versa? It's gonna be an interesting challenge to make the architect's games bad without making the actual game bad. Yeah, I think that'll be fun though. Rival architect can be jealous of main architect, and main can be jealous of the rival. And the end, the player from main's game and sidekick from rival's game's got to work together. I don't want the main architect to be jealous. I don't think the jealousy has to go in two directions. Didn't realize it was a game idea. Yeah, I'm talking about a new game. The losing passion team might feel too real for a game. I think all this stuff can be presented in a way that is appropriate for the game. Because yeah, otherwise I think you could make this like too heavy, but I'm not planning on having it be heavy. It should be lighthearted with hopefully some touching moments. Finally ordered a corn, already built one. Any suggestions? Colmac user. Currently using Kinesis 360. Any suggestions? I think mostly just stick with it. And yeah, I think stick with it. There's a learning curve. Tailor your layers to your workflow. And yeah, try to minimize layer switching. And what else? Yeah, I think try not to fixate on metrics like I did. I did a video on this thing. I'll share the video with you. Architect can change the code. Yeah, I think we need to do that. I think that's a good route of doing it. The architect thought he was very good, but his code is always checked and corrected by a colleague. So I haven't fully answered this part yet, but in my mind, at least, like the architect is like 100% alone. There's no company. There's no like audience. There's no other people they've ever seen in their lives. They're just like there on their own. And the player is in one of the architect's games. And as far as the architect knows, players can't shift between games. Like that's already anomalous for them to be doing that. Anyway, okay, so yeah, everything breaks down as soon as we make the player befriend the architect. So we could just stop that from happening. Maybe your goal is to get back to the architect. Maybe something pries you away from them. Something pries you away from the architect as soon as you're about to reveal that you actually like their games. That's one thing. Possible ways to address the problem of things breaking down when you meet the architect. Or maybe you have a limited amount of time in the real world, but not all like tutorials lead to the real world. Sometimes they lead to other games. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. So is he an indie dev then? The thing that I'm calling where the architect lives is the real world, but it's not like our real world. So there is no concept of like indie dev. I guess just picture that he was put into this like real world as a game creator and his origins are otherwise unknown and irrelevant. And yeah, but I haven't planned a lot of this stuff. So I don't necessarily have answers to these things. I have like vague things that I've pictured and am steering toward. It's like moving through a magnetic field and getting like slightly turned here and there, but not knowing exactly where I'm going. Yeah. Are you concerned that others might copy your idea if you share them too long before the release? Like in a small way, I guess, but not any real major way. All the last games that I've made on stream have taken a long enough amount of time where if someone is like, oh my God, this is the best idea I've ever heard. Yeah, maybe they could code something faster. And I don't know. That's life, I guess. I think that would ruin my enjoyment quite a lot though. Like I like being open about the process. And I think that would make me not want to be open about the process in the future. So I think that would do a lot of damage. My job is to just source Adam, but learn type at 5 words per minute faster. Yeah. So something prying you away, something like Deus Ex Machina stopping you from getting to the point that I have a problem with at this is, I guess, decent. What else? Because if the gameplay you get used to is that you're going through these broken tutorials and you're completing them. I mean, I guess another thing we need to think about is if the game were to be like 5 hours long, that would mean what we have like 6 tutorials per hour, probably some other content. No, not 6 per hour, maybe like 4 per hour. So you have to have like 20 tutorials, 20 games. But we could make some of the games last a little bit longer. Like this platforming idea that I had, I guess what I'm picturing it is if we look at Super Mario Bros. Like World 1-1 map, this is not a very large map, right? Do they have some like, yeah, here we go. Okay, so that's it. That's the whole thing. And if you played Super Mario Bros. 1, it's like you probably recognize every section of this level. But when you see it laid out like this, you're like, wow, that's actually pretty small. So this is what I was picturing for the very first tutorial because I don't want players to get bored of it. Like I want them to understand there is a game here and there are mechanics in this game and there are even some secrets you can discover. But then you get to a jump that you can't make and you fall through the world. That's just the first game though. The other games could have more involved mechanics. Yeah. Hmm. Man, trippy game idea. I think it's a fun game idea. I'm still, yeah, I'm struggling a bit. This is what happens with design, by the way. It's like, I think there are a lot of interesting ideas that came up. And I generally think the best way to brainstorm stuff is to have 2 modes. You have a creative brain and you have an editor brain. And I'm not the one who came up with this idea. But your creative brain is just produce ideas. Don't shoot them down. And then your editor brain is to prune, edit, improve, etc. So like be in creative mode for a bit. Oh man, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? And then later be like, actually only one of these 3 things will work. So I got to keep bouncing between these. But there's another thing that's I think really important for creativity, and it is time. And maybe some amount of boredom too. Yeah, I got to just spend some time thinking about this stuff. Hey, Quirty. Fixing their tutorial sounds fun. Yeah, I like the idea for sure. Yeah. That's how he gets things done. Pretty unfair. That's what? Me? Are there any games designed end to start retrograde style? I don't know. I think you'd have to know what someone's process is. So this is one of those things where, let's say you ask the question, like, has anyone ever designed a game where like they made chapter 5 before chapter 4? And I'm just making up a thing, right? Level 5 before level 4 or something like that. The answer has to be yes, but you'll never know who actually did this because just who shares or knows that information. So probably there are people who've worked from backwards, like the end of the game to the front of the game. And for storytelling, I think sometimes you have these overarching plot points, like plot points. It's got to end with a dragon battle. And you're like, okay, well, how do we get to the dragon battle? Well, we need them to equip themselves. And like, how do they equip themselves? Well, they need to battle things. And then like, how do they, and you just keep answering them like that. That's probably happened. I am going to take another quick break. Yeah. And when we come back, we'll start tackling some more of this stuff. So let me just manually start the game because I don't trust any of this stuff. There we go. And it's jump time. Okie dokie. So, yeah, this is one of the things I want to write down. I don't want players to experience like 3 to 4 of these and then have the game change abruptly. I want the architect to still matter. Maybe you only have a limited amount of time in the real world. So the story progresses in a slow burn way. Oh, sorry. Sort of, I missed your messages. Use portals between levels and players to complete them too in different dimensions to go next. Sounds like something hidden where the key to find the architect. All the will feel new and twist. Mm. Um, I'm not totally sure I understand. Uh, Something I wonder about too. Hmm. I think the backtracking thing, I thought of another thing. Let me go find this because I am very turned around right now. Yeah, cross game inventory. Here it is. So pros, another route for jokes, puzzles, and for the story. So yeah, not all puzzles would have to be self-contained. Hmm. Hey, Grillis, yeah, check out what Calic linked in. Well, how would this change things? So you are playing through, you catch the architect the very first time. He says you're not supposed to be here and just teleports you out. So he has the ability to move you to a different world, which is another game world in that case. Oh, I wonder how he would have known which game world to send you to. I should probably put that as a question here. If the architect can still teleport you to a game, how does he know which one to put you in? I think the answer that comes to mind is maybe he doesn't. He can just send you into a game, but you're special in some way and go into a random one. That also potentially answers another question, which is that if he wanted to help you, if he can't send you into specific games and he just sends you into a random one, that would be the reason why even after you befriended him, he could still be sending you into these like random worlds, especially with a time limit on how long you can be in the real world for. Interesting. Hey, Rusty. Yeah. Yeah, the today command has the overview of what's going on here. I just started working on this game today. In terms of on stream, I've been just spewing ideas into a document for the last like couple of months, but I haven't really spent a lot of time sitting down and actually planning anything. And yeah, I have a lot of questions. This is what tends to happen for this stuff. I'm really only just focusing on the story right now, and I still can't even get that to work just yet. Any inspiration for the Matrix? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really like this idea. And I also really like the idea that the architect can only send you to random worlds. So let's plan a brief outline around these parameters. You can only be in the, yeah, I guess let's do it this way. Can only be in the real world for a short amount of time. Or maybe I'll just say for short bursts. And what else? The architect can only transport you to a random game that he's made, and he's made a ton. So outcomes from that is you enter the first platformer, you break it almost immediately and see the architect. He simply says that you're not supposed to be there and teleports you out. So then the next game takes a lot longer to break. You meet Sidekick who helps you break out. You meet the architect again, and he again teleports you out. I've seen Wreck-It Ralph, but I don't remember this is at least the second time people have said something like this. And I don't remember the connection. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, though. Oh, yeah. I had written this out somewhere. Where is this? Even longer. Try dreaming. Did I not write any more? No. You have that fever dream and then you meet the architect again, right? Where's that? Yeah, you dream that night. It's interactive. You're back in the platformer. The enemies are the annoying tutorial man. Your attacks shoot crops. Background is a mixture of the two games. You get to the pit that you died the first time around, but there's a bridge over it. You break it with the pickaxe you get from the farming game. So there should be an inter-game inventory. There pretty much has to be. Yeah. Meta inventory is practically a must if we have backtracking, or else things wouldn't be different in between the games. Why do you use Google Docs for some things and Obsidian for others? I have a command just for that. Actually, that command is out of date. I changed my mind on that. Ecom Y Google Docs. I'll change it to the correct thing because I had just made a plan last week to use Google Docs more. As real time has much better sharing options, including real time collaboration, which actually maybe that has. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Whereas Obsidian requires publishing to like private links. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else because I looked into this, like what would it take for me to just use Obsidian, and I wrote a few video scripts in here, and there's that very annoying thing where if you search for something, like let's say I search for I can press this button and find the next instance of it. But once I close this, now there is no find again shortcut. So like if I move the cursor a little bit and go to find again, now I have to type out the again and hope that, like, yeah, I remember this thing. And I don't like doing that. That's very annoying. I looked into making a plugin briefly, but I don't think the documentation is very good. I do still use Obsidian on a daily basis, just not for notes like this. Any utility for Obsidian still with private stuff or the backlinks? I'm not sure what you're trying to communicate here. Yeah, what do you mean? Oh, like, do I have any use for Obsidian? Because yeah, I still use Obsidian for private notes, and I like it for that. Well, I guess a question I never really asked myself is why don't I use Google Docs for that? I guess it's a nicer editing experience. It's been like second brain kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, I still use Obsidian for a lot. All of these notes are now in my Obsidian notebook here. So like I've got hundreds of them. Not all of them are things that I still consult, but yeah. All right, so wait, where did that teleporting you out go? Yeah, here it is. Approach the door with caution. Light is on this time. No one's there. Light flicks off. You hear footsteps. Say, wait, I want to know what's going on. Then they say, you're not supposed to be here, and they make you leave. So how many more times could this happen before you're frustrated by this? With this new game, what's your goal or timeline to first MVP once you got the plan? Once I've got the plan figured out, I think the prototype should probably happen in the next month. And the goal is to have about maybe 10 minutes of gameplay and just see, are people intrigued by the idea? Maybe there's a little bit more gameplay than that, but yes, something like that. Yeah, welcome in, Gaba. I have to dip because sleep. All right, yeah, sleep well. Take care. I hope you have a good evening. Yeah, I just don't see this really working. Also, the other idea that I have is a musical one, which was having just piano music for the real world. I think what we probably need to do is expand the size of the games a little bit, but they'd be outside of tutorial content, right? Okay. Yeah. Pivot for a bit. We should probably expand the games outside of the tutorials for a bit. After maybe like 3 times meeting the architect, it would be a little bit ridiculous if you still couldn't actually talk to them and explain anything. Have you played There Is No Game? No. Going the Google Forms route again for the prototype? Yeah, very likely. Although actually, I think it'd also be nice to just ask people to record themselves. And that way I could see how they're experiencing the game or how they're playing it. But we'll figure all that out in due time. The focus for this pretty much entire week is going to be just on the game design doc and just answering these questions. And yeah, good ideas flowing. There's some good ideas. I think getting them to fit well with each other is pretty tough. I'm still trying to figure that out. So yeah, expanding the games allows me to reuse mechanics, worlds, music, etc. Well, the music is tough, right? Because if you're playing any game for like, let's say even 15 minutes, you probably want there to be multiple tracks. So if the goal is to save myself from having to compose more music, this doesn't really do that, does it? Is there a place where people can read about the new game? Yeah. The Today command. I do always try to keep the Today command up to date with what people would ask most about. So usually there are commands of interest or some links or something. Why am I starting a new game? Like, why am I not still working on Skeleseller? The answer to that question is I wrapped up Skeleseller and I've got a document there about it. But in isolation, why am I starting a new one? Just because I like game dev. Unless they're pretty simple tracks or reused from what you already have. Yeah. I might need to, I'll need to figure this out. I'll probably write this down actually for implementation notes. Need to be very mindful of how long each section, each game or part of the story takes to develop. With music, I may need to go a bit simpler so that I can produce more music. Still planning on having a break? Yeah, I think it'll be either late April or early May. It probably won't be for as long as I was originally planning. Just because I don't want to like change my whole routine for that long. Yeah, so it allows me to reuse all this stuff. So then going back to the architect lacking passion, we could have them work on developing a game for a bit so that you can give feedback. We said that what time would move. I don't know, we'll figure that out. Maybe as part of this, you need to get other NPCs to have fun so that they become agents and can also give feedback. Because I'm thinking like this platformer game, we'd actually develop it, I guess. So then the games aren't just throwaway concepts. They'd have to have some thought behind them. And I'm not even certain about this. It would require me to make like nearly complete games and not just set pieces. Like for you to want to play the platformer for 15 minutes, means there'd have to be fun platforming. I don't see that. I don't see that panning out. And I don't know for sure that that's a problem. Yeah, makes me think it's probably not worth uh going the not worth expanding games. Instead, I should probably aim for small games. Maybe even like mini games essentially. Also, I am going to use a bunch of asset packs on itch. That'd probably be the route to go. I haven't really looked through here to see how many are usable. Like I just scroll down a lot and I click this one. These are just characters, right? No maps or anything. So what about like this? There are probably going to be a lot of this sort of asset pack, right? Like a village and a barn and some water flowing. And some, yeah, dungeon ones. I wonder if we can lean into that somehow. I wonder if we can do some like genre mashups that don't typically make sense. Like, what if you turned this style of game into a space shooter almost? It's not in space, so it'd just be a shooter. But what I mean is something along the lines of like an Arrow Fighters kind of game, but using characters. I guess that's kind of like what Vampire Survivors is. A bullet heaven kind of game. Thanks, Octagon. Yeah. You run from an AI that's trying to take your job. I'm not planning on doing anything like that. In fact, people have been suggesting something like that enough where I've got it in the FAQ now about why I don't want to do it. Yeah, so anyway, there are a lot of asset packs here. How much is this one, for example? Get this and 9 more for $40. Yeah. Part of me is wondering, like, what do I spend like $1,000 on assets and then we just make some custom ones for each individual game? Actually, when it comes to characters, interesting. I was thinking, what would be a good identifying feature for characters? Are there any? How do I search for this? Let's see. Let's say I type space shooter and find game assets. Oh, what kind of stuff do we have for this? These look pretty cool. What else? I want to find like another couple and just kind of see what we're looking at here. There aren't a ton of these, huh? Huh. Well, anyway, what I was going to say is if you're trying to make a character that is distinguishable across all types of asset packs, what would you put on them? What's the minimum you could do? And I was thinking a hat could work because you could put a hat even on a plane. Doesn't make any sense, but if it's clothing, it might not. Or maybe you could just have a color scheme or some kind of symbol. Maybe there's like a purple triangle on your character all the time and it just manifests as a tie most of the time, but when it's a plane, it turns into a stripe or something. I don't know. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. But yeah, I think the leaning into asset packs is probably the best idea here. Are much better for small games anyway, so that you can tailor the game to the graphics that you have and not need to make as many custom ones. Kirby's just a color and a style of face for identification across forms. Like in the new Kirby game? Because in a game like Kirby Superstar, I think a lot of the powers, like Kirby was still Kirby and just had a different hat or something. But in the new game, he can turn into like a truck or a, well, maybe he doesn't turn into a truck. I think he just eats them, right? I'm not. I'm not sure. I haven't played that game. Yeah, what's the new one called? Kirby something about the city. Kirby. What's it called? Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Can't he turn into a truck? Yeah, this stuff. Yeah, and in all these cases, it's like Kirby on the thing, and not Kirby truly becoming that thing, I guess. So maybe it's a little bit easier. In the new game, you can eat a staircase. Yeah, I think it's cool they did that. I think it's nice. I'll look them in Arc. You play a rendition of their indie game inside your game. Call it Indie World. Well, I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you heard me, but like I talked to Windy Beard Games a while ago, and I asked him like, "Hey, would you be okay with if I were to like use your assets or something?" Wait, why didn't that show up on Steam? Maybe he's just Windy Beard there. Yeah, he's just Windy Beard there. So take a game like this, for example. This is a game Windy made back in 2014. Like he did not get an asset pack, and he didn't turn his art into an asset pack. So this is just artwork that exists currently only in Sweezy Gunner. And maybe one of his future games, I'm not sure, but no one else has this in their games. What if I just said, "Hey, Windy, would you give me the assets to use in my game for a Sweezy Gunner knockoff game or something?" And like I pay him some licensing fee for that. So now we have, to me, what is essentially an asset pack. To him, it's an IP that is probably not going to get revived anytime soon. And he also gets money from it. So it's like I could reach out to a bunch of indie devs and ask them, "Hey, are you okay with that sort of thing?" And I think that'd be cool. This is another one of those, like, there's a lot of scope for this game, that's for sure. So yeah, lots of tiny games. In which case, how does that play into this then? Because I do think this is one of the conclusions that I probably need to file somewhere. Oh my God, what's going on? I don't know what just happened. Ooh. Okay. So maybe I'll file that somewhere. Maybe I'll just make like a conclusions from. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do it at the bottom of this section. From writing out tons of thoughts, I should probably keep the games relatively short. It'll work better for asset packs since we don't have a lot of graphics. It'll make the music easier to compose, probably. And games won't overstay their welcome. And games don't need to be fully fleshed out standalone games. Imagine the platformer needing to entertain the player for 15 plus minutes. It would just have to be a full game at that point. Can you make a monster taming game that ends in Mon and get sued by Nintendo? Yeah, I think I'm going to call it Pal World Mon. There should be no problems with that name. What games have I been playing lately? I'm still playing the same games I've been playing. The Finals and Slay the Spire 2. I had also been playing Diablo 2, but I haven't played that in a little while. So yeah, the Finals just came out with a new season, and I'm loving it. I think it's great. How big is each game? Something like UFO 50? I haven't played UFO 50, so I don't know. But possibly smaller than that. But I don't know how big those games were. You think about multiplayer or solo game? It's going to be a solo game. Yeah, single player. I should put that in the FAQ. Because I probably never mentioned that in here, right? Yeah. It's a single player story-based comedy game. Yeah. I like that show. And welcome in Forgotten. Okay, so yeah, I like this about keeping the game short. How does that change this thing that I mentioned? So they work on developing a game for a bit so you can give feedback. Maybe as part of this. Would that work? I keep going back to the same list that I have somewhere. This. I'm just going to take this into VS Code for a second. Architect makes bad games, lacks confidence and passion. You still find the games fun. You eventually befriend the architect. They like this. You then, maybe later you discover this. Maybe there's another plot point in between. And I kind of like that idea too of you can only survive in the real world for so long. Maybe you can only survive in the real world for so long. Maybe it matches the length of the piano track I record. Oh, that's another reason. We got to have you going back to the real world pretty frequently. If the piano only music is going to matter, we need you going back to the real world like relatively frequently. But also the architect kind of needs to be moody for that to happen. Or else it'll always be the same few themes. Maybe that's fine. Hey AJ, how's it going? Thank you for the raid. Shout out. Yeah, it was an AJ stream. I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, and I don't recall when this was, but I was an AJ stream like a week and a half ago or something. And I was like, hey, how are you liking Skeleseller? And AJ's like, Adam, good to see you. I'm like, wait, I'm not familiar with you. How are you familiar with me? And yeah, it turns out that, I mean, it's all in the game dev community, and AJ is very much a part of the game dev community. So yeah, welcome in. We're working on a new game today, and I've been working on the game design for a little while. Hey, Aaron. Aaron, I meant to ask you, I heard AJ pronouncing your name, Aaron. What do you prefer? And this is not to call out AJ. Yes, you've been adopted. Yeah, so I've been working on this game for a little bit, just pretty much since this morning. Although I have had some ideas that I've been funneling into this document for a while. And it's called Stuck in a Broken Tutorial. It's a kind of a comedy game. Aaron, okay, got it, yeah. I will write this down. Pronunciation. Cool. And let me write it over there too. Great. Okay, so anyway, picture that you start out and you're in like a Mario Bros style game, and you're jumping and it's a platformer and you're learning how the game works just like in Mario Bros. And then you make it to some section, let's say over here, where there's a jump that you literally cannot make. So, I mean, in this, obviously you can make it in Mario Bros, but imagine if we move this all the way over to the side. So you try making the jump and you fall, but instead of landing on the ground, you go through the terrain and you just keep falling and falling and falling until you meet the architect. He is the one who created the game that you're in. And he says, you're not supposed to be here, and just zaps you out. And now you're in a new game. And you're in some, like, I don't know, something like this maybe. So the game is like totally changed aesthetics. You are now tasked with like finding the golden egg. And you're in another tutorial that's kind of broken here. You similarly find your way out of this game. You meet some other characters along the way. And you start to uncover like, who is this architect? What are you doing in this world? What is this game all about? And how do you like make things right? So that's the general direction that we're going in so far. And I still have a lot of things to plan here. And yeah, so that's what we were talking about with this, which is, yeah, maybe the architect doesn't find out about the negative effects of their games until later. Maybe this is something you slowly help fix and tell the architect about it. I think that could work quite well. Architect is heartened by this. However, maybe this isn't important. What point would you have for saying that? Yeah, they inform you that you can't stay in the real world for too long and have to send you into another game. They're unable to choose which one. Okay, so you go through another game only to find your way out. There's got to be something you learn here. Maybe there's some way for you to stay outside of that world. I got to think about that. You're on a note. As if people never try to make the jump and just start running backwards, you should probably have something that causes some inertia to force them to jump. I mean, this is like asking, what if you, I mean, Mario Brothers is timed, but what if there was no timer and you just stayed on the start screen for the whole time? Like, you won't be playing the game at that point. there's nothing. Yeah. Like, at some point, you're going to do the one thing that the game is telling you to do. Or else, yeah, you'll just be standing there. Involves changing the style on each game. Yeah. How do you transfer your character look from one game to another, like from a side scroller to a top down if you're using assets? So that's what I was saying. We do need some custom artwork. So imagine for this, like imagine if we wanted to make this look like Mario. We would probably put a red shirt and like overalls or something on every character, but otherwise not change the sprites too much. So where is, should I probably close the tab? Yeah, I think I closed it. I had a bunch of other like character packs and stuff open. I guess it was just through here. But even, what is going on right now? Even this. Yeah, we go to browse. I think I'd be able to find this easier. All right. And oh, I'm in the browse games. I see. Okay, that's why I couldn't find it. Yeah, if we look at something like this, I don't know if there are any characters in here. No, there's only like one. But yeah, same thing. It's like if we wanted this to look like our character, we do something that stands out. And I was mentioning in the Banjo-Kazooie games, what are some of the other transformations they had? They had the pumpkin form. So in Banjo-Kazooie, no matter what form you're in, you always have a backpack and yellow shorts. And yeah, there we go. So like, if you didn't have that, it would just be a pumpkin. And you'd be like, oh, I'm a new character now. But because you have the shorts and the backpack, you're like, I'm Banjo and Kazooie. So yeah, go through another game only to find your way out. Maybe the architect expresses surprise at how quickly you're doing this. You may be able to help them test all of their games. And then you go through another few before telling them that all of the characters you encounter seem sort of hollow. The architect can explain that he doesn't design the characters. Yeah, so like I think you're gonna get this piecemeal story in little snippets here and there. Only game worth making anymore is a good and updated Dungeon Keeper clone. Have I ever seen that game? Wait, I literally just linked this to someone the other day. I've never played this. Oh wait, no, maybe I didn't link this specific game, but I searched for, there was a game where you were supposed to lay traps in a dungeon, but it was a multiplayer game. And I don't remember what it was called, and I never played even that game. But I ended up linking something like this to someone who was suggesting an idea along the lines of like Skelliseller 2. But yeah, my version of Dungeon Keeper is Redungeon that I'd love to see made again. It was a mobile game, and it was a lot of fun. And maybe if you still have this on your phone, you can play it, but I don't think it's on any app stores anymore. But it was a game where you just had a directional pad and an ability button. So in this case, your goal is to just move up through the world nonstop. And there are lots of obstacles to try to stop you. Orcs Must Die. I don't think it was that. I don't remember. I don't remember enough to be able to even probably point out that, yes, that's the game I was thinking of, even if I saw these things. He doesn't design the characters. you eventually change a game slightly. No, wait. You'd have to find the sidekick. I like where this is going. I just haven't still figured this out. Discover that other people aren't having fun with the games, and that's what leads to them becoming NPCs. You'd have to have, yeah, I think this is a better structure, but it's still not complete. You can't stay in the real world for too long. You cycle through playing like 2 to 3 games, breaking out of them, finding the architect, and getting teleported into new games. Eventually, the architect hears you out for long enough to know that you enjoy the games. Or that you can't stay in the real world for too long and have to send you into another game. Or unable to choose which one. Go through another game only to find your way out. Express a surprise at how quickly you're doing this. You may be able to help them test all their games. You go through another few before telling the architect that all the characters you encounter seem sort of hollow. Architect explains that he doesn't design the characters. All of the ones who had made it here only mocked him for his broken tutorials. He always struggled with those. Want to just make a new branch that's only my new files, but maybe this isn't what project management would want anyway. A branch is just a pointer to a commit, I'm pretty sure, right? I think Git even uses the term commit-ish in a lot of documentation. Yeah, any reference that can be recursively dereferenced to a commit object. So like a branch, a commit SHA. Yeah. So branches shouldn't be, yeah, they're practically free from what I understand, but it shouldn't be like copying all your files over or something. It should just be another, it's like typing a commit pretty much. I found out accidentally last night that Gemini can add proper code blocks into Google Docs. Oh, interesting. It's supposed to be a Google Workspace only feature. Yeah, I didn't know about that. When I worked there, I had proper code blocks pretty much. And I was like, man, I can't wait until this hits the outside. And I realized it was on the outside. It just was a paid feature. All right, what do we have here? So I need to answer a different question by doing this, I think, right? Do I struggle with those? Discover that other people aren't having fun with the games. That's what leads to them becoming NPCs. Maybe you encounter Sidekick again at this point. Like early on, you encounter them and they're kind of stuck in that game and they're like losing their minds. But then this time around, you encounter them again. In that time, you encounter Sidekick. They mention that as long as they've been alive, they've seen maybe like two other game worlds. Yeah, they need help leaving this one and feel themselves dwindling in some way. So in another game world, you find Sidekick again, only this time they're practically an NPC. You break them out of this world and bring them to the architect. Yeah, why not? The architect like may need help diagnosing what's wrong since they don't design characters. The real reason is that they were bored by the architect's games. Unfortunately, you two get sent to different worlds on your way back. You may even ask how many games the architect made, to which they might reply hundreds or maybe thousands. I don't know. Yeah, but a ton, like more than you'd experience in this game. So, all right, so far this is shaping up just fine, right? Architect's bad at making games. You cycle through a few of them. You encounter sidekick. You eventually get to talk to the architect and be like, hey, I was actually having fun playing these games. They teleport you to a few more games. In fact, maybe they connect to one another. Should they always connect back to the main world? Yeah, maybe that would help lengthen things without jarring the story. I should write that down. Note, if needed, we can have games connect to one another. That way we can delay advancing the story without having to lengthen one specific game. Yeah, I'll write this here. Yeah. Okay. So where do we end up now? You find sidekick and only this time they're practically an NPC. This would be so cool to do in the game. You break them out of this world and bring them to the architect. The architect may need help diagnosing what's wrong. Real reason is that they were bored. Is that sidekick was bored by the architect's games. Okay, so you go through another few games before finding another agent. This is their first world, and they're having a blast with something unrelated to the tutorial. Maybe it's just, I don't know, playing the part of the game that was developed. Kind of an inadvertent villain. Yeah, I think so. I think villain to me usually implies intent, at least in a game or a story. Like, let's say, I don't know, you have a character in a game who, I'm trying to think, like, what's a game where I've seen this? Because there are a lot of intentional villains. I don't play enough story driven games. Well, anyway, yeah, imagine you're walking into a store and you close the door on somebody. Like, you're not a villain, you just made a mistake or you weren't aware. Maybe to the other person, you're a villain. And in this case, people aren't aware that this is being done to them. Yeah. Wheatley from Portal 2. I remember Portal 2, but I don't remember what Wheatley did. But yeah, maybe. So you eventually report this to the architect. They connect the dots and realize it's all about fun. Maybe the mission now becomes to help the architect fix some of these games. So you would need to find some way to go to specific games at that point. Probably need to find some way to go to specific games. Maybe the architect has developed that capability. Yeah, hey, Lucas. Yeah. I did mention this a long time ago. And by the way, the time I mentioned it first, I think, was, where was it? I don't think it was there. Oh man, there was some video I did a long time ago. I don't know if I was live streaming on YouTube for that time. I also don't know how you even navigate to this quickly. Maybe I search for game. I don't know. Anyway, I looked through a bunch of game ideas, and this was the one that I think I was more excited than chat was. But I'm getting to tackle it now, so that's nice. List a few ideas. Yeah. Still at it? How many hours now? I had a tiny stream in between where things just went south and then it crashed. I think because I opened up a dialogue I shouldn't have opened up. But I'm at about 7 hours. I'm probably gonna stop in the next hour. One, because I'm not as productive and I need to just like think about these ideas. But also because the cat's gonna start meowing pretty soon, and then it's pretty hard to focus. Okay, so the mission now becomes to help the architect fix some of these games. Probably need to find somebody to go specific ones. Maybe the architect has developed that capability. I think this is where repeating the games could be interesting. At this point, you're expected to backtrack a bit. Maybe there's a limited selection. There could still be some new games in there. As you fix the games, you notice more and more people starting to come to life. And then, but how would the game end? Hey, Camino, and hey, Shoe Strikers. Yeah, because originally the idea for the ending would be that you fix all of the games in a cutscene. But if you're fixing the games as you're going through, I mean, there's no like final boss or something. I don't know. Yeah, well, that idea was great. So let's write this down up here with a star. As it feeling like a story, then end type game, or a game you play again and again? Yeah. A story, you'll play through it once. It's not meant to be replayable, or at least not in any like major way. If something falls into place here, like one of the games I think about a lot is Undertale. And Undertale had 3 playthroughs. There was the normal one, then there was the pacifist run, and then there was the genocide run. And some things changed in between these runs. Some dialogue changed. They kind of expand the story a bit. But there's a lot that's the same. And as a result of this, how long to beat Undertale is probably like 7 hours, I'd guess. 7 hours for main story, 11 for main and sides. Okay, that's longer than I thought. Now, in Undertale, one of the things that I think allowed Toby Fox to make this game and not spend 10 years doing it is the art style combined with, I think he's a talented musician, but he did limit his kind of like palette of instruments. I think he made great music as a result, but I think if I want to do things the way that I'm planning, I think it's gonna be a lot of work. Undertale graphics. Yeah. So like he draws better than I do, or I don't know who made all the graphics. I thought it was mostly Toby Fox. Although that's not, the main character's face isn't flat, right? Yeah, that's what I expect. Yeah. So like these are not crazy graphics. And I'm not trying to downplay this. I'm just trying to say if you were making like a super detailed world, it would take you much longer to do everything. Final scene, you pull the plug of the Arctex PC. I don't know what we would work up to with this. I don't know what, like, yeah, what's the ending? If you're fixing games as you go. The last game starting to collapse, but like, why would it be collapsing? And still, you need an ending, right? The last game's about to collapse and you make it out, and then something has to happen, right? But then you meet the architect or become the architect. So you would have met the architect before that. Like you meet the architect relatively early on, although you don't know they're the architect or who they are, and you start to learn that stuff. Take care, Cuddlefish. Thanks for chiming in. So yeah, you could become the architect. I kind of talked about this earlier. You could become an architect. Maybe you even set up shop alongside the architect. That could be kind of interesting. He dies? I just picture that everyone in this game is immortal. I think the architect needs some kind of flaw. I mean, their flaw is that they're making terrible games. Like they're turning an entire populace into zombies basically by making these games. It's a pretty big flaw. I don't. We leave. What is it? A demi-urge. Yeah, I kind of like this. This is like a nice ending that we have here. It does kind of make me wonder, could we do a second playthrough where the architect is the villain? But what would that, how would that look different? I'll write it down as a question, but I don't know how I feel about this. As we prototype, is there any way that we could allow for some replayability? Maybe we could make the architect the villain. I suspect this would be very difficult. Like, a lot of the fun of the game is the discovery of mechanics and the jokes around that discovery. We would need to probably need to make just more content with a different storyline, which I think could make a great sequel. Yeah. Well, the architect is pretty much just a terrible game director and designer trying to make a game, but you, the player, is helping them make it better and fix it. Yeah, I like the themes. I really, really like the themes that I've come up with here. I think they're good. And I wrote down a lot of these, like identity and persistence, diffidence, friendship, humor, control, and agency. Like, these are the core concepts that the game talks about and covers. And there's a connection to the real world with some of this stuff. The lacking confidence in doing something, finding fun in something anyway. I think I'll say like some real world takeaways, like mostly mentioned above. I don't know if we've explicitly talked about passion here, but this is like I gotta copy this somewhere because all this is great. Like working outline. Hey James, been any new revenue update on Skeletor? I've still not looked at sales since the second day, so I don't have an update for you. But when I finally do look at them, because it'll fit my bank account and then I can't ignore it, I probably won't be sharing it. Hey TY, you came in with AJ. Yeah, nice to see you. There are kind of architect figures who build the real world, so there's a lot of medieval myth about what a flawed creator is. Sometimes they're evil and cruel, sometimes just ignorant. Yeah. There was someone was talking about this earlier, and I said I can't really scroll up in chat anymore, but yeah. And thanks, James. Hey, Syrup. You get option to fix the games or not fix the games. The ending changes depending on that, or break them even more. Hey, Goose. So I think the fix or not fix, I want to be careful about how many branches we add, because every branch you add as a programmer is something that a player might take. And if they take that branch and then they take another branch, you've now forked the number of options you need to accommodate by however many branches you have. So, you give someone like 5 choices and you're like, well, now we have 32 paths we need to cover if you can take any number of those. So I think the game will be somewhat linear, but a lot of what I learned about Skeletor, and I mentioned this in that video I did, which if anyone hasn't seen the video, here it is, and I'll even paste this in YouTube chat. I don't know how many people are watching there. It's a half-hour long video, but one of the lessons that I talked about was, at least indirectly, is you can make a fun game and people will like it. I don't think it has to resemble exactly what someone expects out of the genre. And that's kind of what I want to do here too. This is a story-driven comedy game. People have talked about, there are other games that are like it. There are some TV shows that are like it. But I want to not experience those things and just like come up with what I'm coming up with. I think people will enjoy it. And even though it's probably going to be pretty linear, I think that'll be okay. But yeah, I really, really like this. So story beats. Yeah, so this is what we put here. Once the architect, so like as you progress, some like game design knowledge thing I said. Yeah. As you progress, you are able to stay in the real world longer and longer. You eventually become an architect alongside like, yeah, I guess I'll just italicize it, the architect. I don't know if that'll feel satisfying enough to players. It feels like it lacks some kind of closure. Yeah, I think there's something like, can we add more closure? I think we have room for a sequel. Architect were a villain, or like had been a villain. Can we add more closure to the story somehow? Yeah. That's right, Darkstorm. The comedy version of the beginner's guide. Yeah, apparently. Apparently. I have not played that game, but yeah, people have been mentioning it. Oh yeah, sorry, Dallas. That wasn't necessarily just for you. Like I said, I don't know how many people are watching on YouTube because I don't ever have my view count showing. I don't have that showing on Twitch either. But oh my god, why can I not type? I think it shows over here. Yeah, 12 watching. Okay, so yeah, anyone else who might have been there who had not seen it, it's neat and linear. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I think we've made some pretty good progress. I did want to write this part down. I hear Abby meowing already. Day 1.5. Yeah, I name my days like by half days because I take a break for lunch. Yeah, okay. So real world takeaways. Um, passion can be important in what you do. Finding the fun in something will keep you alive. I'm writing these as kind of frou-frou expressions, I guess. What other things do we have here? Everyone needs company / help. What else? I think that's probably the majority of it. Yeah, I like this. Have I just never noticed the half before? Yeah. Uh, I know you can't hear what I'm saying, but yeah, I guess they go back as far as day 6. Because before then, I was apparently saying part 2. So yeah. Is the core gameplay essentially the puzzle of what to do next? I realize it's kind of every game, but I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah. We talked a lot today about the story. I think tomorrow what the focus is going to be is about the game mechanics. Design more from the perspective of game mechanics. I want to, yeah, figure out what the game actually feels like to play when characters aren't talking to each other. That's done. Yeah. So since day like 6, we've been using the half notation. So if you just scroll through this list really fast, it's like day 11 and a half, day 18 and a half, day 26 and a half. I've just always done that. Abby. Abby. Okay. Little meowy cat. Come on. Want to come up? Yeah. Of course you want to come up. Hi. Come, sit down. She's like, I will stop you from using your keyboard. No. I just cleaned that yesterday. No. Getting all over cat. Hi. I have not played the beginner's guide, no. Want to come sit down so I can use my mouse again? Hi. Hi. Yeah. Good. Good cat. Hi. Come on. She's like, I will not let you use this. I don't care what you do. You're not touching this keyboard. All right, what if I move away? Want to come sit down? Yes, you do. Oh. She got super used to just laying in front of your keyboard. It's where all your attention is. This cat. Okay. So, yeah, let's see. Ideation with not a lot of refinement, typing and thinking. What else do we have here? This is an implementation thing that I'll hopefully get to. We cover it from this. Hi, cat. Bye, cat. Yeah, that's Abby. I don't know how many of you have never seen her, but she's our great kitty cat. Took a picture at lunchtime of her sitting in a sunbeam. Look at that. Look at that cat. Yeah, there are a lot of questions left to get through. I do want to spend, yeah, pretty much all this week going through this stuff. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Tuesday will be focused on game mechanics. Wednesday onward is still going to be game design, answer questions, flesh out the games. We could even, I could prototype some of these games. I need to figure out like what makes for a compelling prototype here. Make for a compelling prototype. Bump this down the list. You go through a lot of video games made by one person in that game as well. Interesting. Yeah. I'm guessing it's going to get compared to that a lot. Have you ever thought of playing a ton of games between projects to kind of refill your tank of inspiration? No, my general philosophy has always kind of been just like explore my mind for inspiration. And over the years, I write down all of the game ideas that I have. A lot of my time has been spent on Skeleseller, and then once I started working on Stuck in a Broken Tutorial, I funneled a lot of ideas into that. So there haven't been a lot of just random ideas there for a while. Really curious how you lay things out. Gonna try to mirror what you do on my own. Like the design stuff, because I've shared this before. The game design notes that I've taken are here. I think it's worth reading through some of this. Some of it's probably going to be helpful, but maybe the most important thing is this, the inventing things from scratch. Is that what we have? No, maybe it's, where is it? No, designing a brand new game. Here it is. And I wonder how much of this I'm doing right now. Questions asked, what kind of gameplay do I want to encourage? Start jotting down any concrete system. Sections of making a document. Yeah, systematically listen and answer questions. Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of ingrained in me now, but at one point I felt the need to write it down. This is Obsidian published. This is not Obsidian published. This is, what is it? Starlight and Vercel for hosting. I think watching how you actually do it. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Design games like this, copy yet another game. Yeah. How'd you move that line down in Google Docs? On Mac, it is Control, Shift, and then up or down. There. I think on Windows, it's Alt, Shift, up and down. I'm not actually sure. But that's a super useful thing, and it works across bulleted lists too. So like I can move this down into this list. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Country, I live in the US. I'm in Washington State, which is the northwestern part of the continental US. So I'm not going to share my exact location, but yeah, that's where I live. Whew, okay, well, today has been pretty intense. I think it's been good. I hope you've all enjoyed. I'm going to go find someone to raid. Remember, the rest of this week is going to be like what you saw here. It's going to be me typing into a document. We're going to bring this game closer to being able to be developed. Hopefully answer some more questions. It's nice seeing the reaction from people, just that people are intrigued by the idea and the story, and hopefully we come up with some good jokes and everything. Am I using Unity? No, I'm going to be using Godot and C#. Let me update that command really fast, actually. Oh, yeah, Boolean. I'll read Boolean. Sure. Engine Atom using Godot and C# to make SIMBT. He used the same technologies for Skelecell. There. Control Alt. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, where art thou, Boolean? Found you. You tried to hide in plain sight, but I'm gonna raid you anyway. Okay, yep. Thank you all for being here. I'll be back tomorrow at 8:30 my time. It is currently 4. You figure it out. Bye, everybody.